Imagine standing at the edge of the universe, watching a god realize he has become the very monster he swore to destroy. That moment, that singular, devastating moment, is what Denis Villeneuve has been building toward all along. And now, for the first time, the world has seen how it begins. The lights went dark inside CinemaCon 2026. No fanfare, no introduction, just silence. The kind of silence that presses against your chest like something heavy is coming. And then it started. 7 minutes. That's all they showed. 7 minutes of footage from Dune, Part 3, the final chapter of a saga that has redefined what science fiction cinema can feel like. And in those 7 minutes, Denis Villeneuve didn't just open a movie. He opened a wound. Because what they witnessed inside that theater wasn't an action sequence. It wasn't spectacle for spectacle's sake. It was a statement. A dark, thunderous, emotionally devastating statement about what happens when prophecy is fulfilled and the prophet is no longer the man you once believed in. So let's go there. Let's step inside those 7 minutes together. Close your eyes for a moment and then open them, because what you're about to hear will make you feel like you were in that room. The first image is sky. Not a clean sky. Not a beautiful sky. A broken sky. Churning and violent. Alive with something terrifying. Massive ships tear through storm clouds. Their silhouettes massive and angular against the darkness that feels almost sentient. Lightning fractures the atmosphere around them. The clouds don't part for these vessels. They absorb them, like the universe itself is swallowing something whole. And then an explosion. Then another. And another. Each one doesn't just light up the frame. Each one shakes it. You don't just see the war beginning. You feel it arriving, like a pressure change before a natural disaster. That awful moment when your body understands something catastrophic is near before your mind can process it. The camera moves. It always moves in Villeneuve's world. Never static, never passive. Always pulling you somewhere you're not sure you're ready to go. And it pulls you down, down through the chaos of the sky, down through smoke and raining debris, down to the ground where soldiers are moving. These aren't Sardaukar. These aren't the polished forces of an empire performing choreographed war. These are Fremen, and they move like water, like sand, like something that has survived every desert and every storm and every betrayal and come out the other side harder and sharper than before. They are preparing for something enormous. Their faces say what their mouths do not. We have been waiting for this moment, and we are no longer afraid of it. And leading them. Unmistakable. Eyes burning with a ferocity that seems to contain entire centuries of grief, is Stilgar. Stilgar, if you have followed this saga, that name alone should do something to you. Because Stilgar was never just a soldier. He was a believer. He was a man who looked at a lost, frightened boy from House Atreides and saw something holy in him. He knelt in the desert and pledged everything. His people, his faith, his entire understanding of the universe, to a prophecy that Paul Atreides would either fulfill or shatter. Well, the prophecy was fulfilled, and now Stilgar leads Fremen warriors into a battle so ferocious, so mechanically overwhelming, that the word war almost feels inadequate. Turret fire rips through formations. Advanced weaponry, technology that seems almost obscene against the brutal intimacy of Fremen combat, unleashes devastation on a scale that makes the previous films look restrained. Explosions cascade through the sequence in waves, each one consuming something. Bodies, vehicles, entire stretches of landscape, with an almost casual indifference that is somehow more terrifying than deliberate cruelty. This is war without glory, without triumph. The casualties aren't dramatically lingered upon. They simply happen, absorb into the noise and fire of a conflict that has grown beyond any single human's ability to contain or comprehend. This is what the galaxy looks like when a Messiah has been unleashed upon it. This is what answered prayers cost. And then the footage pauses. The narration shifts. The story breathes. And Denis Villeneuve makes you wait because he knows, he has always known, that the most devastating thing he can tell you is not what is happening in the battle. It's why the battle is happening at all. 17 years. Let that settle for a moment. 17 years have passed since we last truly knew Paul Atreides. 17 years since the boy from Caladan stood in the desert with grief in his eyes and purpose forming in his bones. 17 years since Chani watched him walk toward a destiny she never fully trusted, never fully believed, even as she loved him. 17 years is a long time to become something unrecognizable, because that is exactly what has happened. Paul Atreides, Muad'Dib, Lisan al-Gaib, is no longer any of those things. Not really. He has completed the transformation that Part 2 began hinting at, the one that was always written in the subtext, always lurking beneath the surface of the hero's journey, like something dark moving under ice. He has become emperor, not a reluctant leader, not a conflicted prophet, an emperor in the coldest, most absolute meaning of that word. He is a dark emperor now, and the jihad that was waged in his name has consumed the known universe. Wars fought by believers who carried his image like a holy relic across star systems, across planets, across generations of bloodshed. The prophecy said a Messiah would come. The prophecy came true, and the galaxy burned for it. This is the film's true subject. Not heroism, not destiny, not the beautiful tragedy of a chosen one. Dune, Part 3 is about consequences. The specific, irreversible, crushing weight of consequences. What happens after the hero's journey ends and the hero must live inside the world his story created? Villeneuve has been building a deconstruction of mythology since the first frame of this trilogy, and now, in his final installment, he is completing the demolition. There is no redemption arc promised here. There is no comfortable resolution waiting at the end of the sand. There is only a man who looked into the future, saw every terrible path, chose the least terrible one, and is now standing inside a present that feels, somehow, like the worst possible outcome anyway. Paul Atreides is becoming his own nightmare. And then there is Chani. Oh, there is Chani. If Paul's story is about the seduction of power, Chani's story is about the courage to refuse it. And in Part 3, that courage has curdled into something quieter and more devastating: grief. Exhaustion. The particular kind of heartbreak that comes not from losing someone to death, but to transformation. Watching the person you loved most become someone you don't recognize, someone whose eyes you search for familiarity and find only distance. She has emotionally distanced herself. That is the formal description. But what it means, what it looks like, is something far more painful than distance. It looks like a woman who once burned, now standing very still. It looks like hope that has been extinguished so slowly, over so many years, that she almost didn't notice when the last ember finally went cold. Zendaya carries all of this. She has always been the soul of this saga in ways that the promotional material underplays. The moral compass, the human anchor against Paul's increasingly mythological existence. In Part 3, that role becomes the emotional spine of the entire film, because Chani is the mirror. She is the only character who sees Paul clearly enough to mourn exactly what has been lost. And watching her mourn it, watching her try to love someone who is slowly ceasing to be a person, is the kind of heartbreak that stays with you long after the credits roll. Their relationship is the emotional core of this final chapter. Two people who found each other in a desert, who loved each other in the brief, bright window between one kind of suffering and another, now standing on opposite sides of a void that neither of them fully created and neither of them knows how to cross. And the cast that returns for this finale? Extraordinary, almost cruel in how much emotional history they carry into every frame. Timothée Chalamet returns as Paul, and the performance previewed in these 7 minutes suggests something we haven't quite seen from him before: a stillness that is unsettling, a quietness that is weight. This is not the uncertain young man of Part 1. This is not the hardening prophet of Part 2. This is someone who has arrived somewhere terrible and made peace with it, or is trying to, or is failing to, in ways that will matter enormously before this story ends. Jason Momoa joins the cast in what promises to be a seismic addition. bringing a physical and emotional presence that immediately changes the atmosphere of any scene he inhabits. Anya Taylor-Joy returns, enigmatic as ever, her role expanding in ways that the earlier films only hinted at. And then there are Paul's children, Leto, Tu, and Ganima, introduced at last. Children of prophecy, born into an empire built on blood and belief, inheriting a legacy that is already, in every measurable way, a catastrophe. Their presence adds a generational dimension to the tragedy, making clear that the consequences of Paul's choices don't end with Paul. They multiply. They echo forward. But perhaps the most electrifying new addition is the character known as Scalite, a Tleilaxia face dancer, a being capable of assuming any identity, wearing any face, becoming anyone. Played by Robert Pattinson. Let that land for a moment. Robert Pattinson, an actor who has built an entire second act of his career on the precise exploration of unsettling, unknowable, quietly terrifying characters, stepping into the role of a being who, by definition, has no true face at all. The implications are extraordinary. An antagonist who cannot be identified, who could be anyone, who might already be in the room. In a story about false prophecies and manufactured messiahs, there is no more perfect villain. Denis Villeneuve has said this is his final Dune film, the end of a journey that has consumed nearly a decade of his creative life. And you can feel that finality in the tone of what was shown at CinemaCon. A heaviness, a deliberateness, the energy of a filmmaker who knows exactly what he is saying and has chosen every frame with the precision of someone who understands this is the last time. The tone is darker than anything that came before, more emotional, more tragic, more willing to sit inside the discomfort of its own questions without rushing toward answers. This is not a film interested in making you feel good. It is a film interested in making you feel something real about power, about belief, about the people we love when we watch them disappear into versions of themselves we never wanted them to become. Because in the end, Dune was never really about sand or spice or desert planets or galactic empires. It was always about this. The terrible intimacy of watching someone you believe in become something you fear. The moment when the prophecy comes true and you realize, with cold and total clarity, that you should have been more careful about what you prayed for. The storm is coming. The ships are already in the sky. Stilgar's eyes are already burning. And somewhere inside an empire built on the ashes of everything he once was, Paul Atreides is looking into the future one more time, seeing every path, every outcome, every version of himself that still might be possible, and choosing. Dune Part 3, the final chapter, the price of prophecy. Some doors, once opened, can never be closed again.